Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is chapter 53 of Really Fake, and this one is titled Mrs. Grump. He looked at you and then conceded. Okay, honey, you've done all this work for me, so I'll see the other woman for you, Pa said kindly, patting your hand that was on the armrest. Thanks, you said with a smile. Mrs. Happy entered the room again, and you asked her to have a seat so you could start the interview, much to both her and your displeasure. You really didn't know what Pa saw in her, but this was for him, so you did as he asked. So what days can you do? You asked her, praying that she could only come in once a week, and that would give you a reason not to hire her. What day you need? She asked bluntly. Well, every day of the week would be amazing, he replied. Okay. Okay, you can do every day? I just said I could. Her face darkened. Oh, God, calm down, Medusa, you thought. Okay, fine, you snapped back, mirroring her bluntness. 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Yes. Oh, do you have any questions for us? You asked her, glancing at Pa, who was just staring at the woman's side profile. Where is laundry room? She asked pointedly. It's down the hall. Why does that matter? You asked her, befuddled by her weird question. Mr. Lin cannot do the laundry himself, and I will not stand for uncleanliness. The way she said it gave you a glimmer of hope that although she was really unpersonable, she'd probably do a good job at looking after Pa. I have a question, Pa interjected in his elderly voice. Can I have a cup of tea, please? Why you need cup of tea now? She asked gruffly as she stood up. I will get it. Milk and sugar? Yes, milk and 2 sugars, Pa replied with a nod. Too sweet, she stated as she left the room. Pa, you hissed across at him. She's horrid. Watch, he said knowingly, raising a knobby finger to get you to hush. You pursed your lips and waited for her to return. She came back shortly with tea in hand, muttering to herself about something, and then walked around to the right side of Pa and put the cup down perfectly within reach and turned the cup handle towards him so he could take it easily. You didn't really think much of it until you had a chance to compare it with the next contender, Mrs. Grump. As 5 p.m. neared, you said goodbye to Mrs. Happy and waited for Mrs. Grump to come. There was a happy little knock at the door, and you smiled and got up to get it. Hi, Mrs. Grump, you greeted as you pulled the door open. Hello, love. Pleased to meet you face to face. Please call me Betty. Come in, Betty, you invited, swinging your body out of the way to let her in. She entered and sighed happily. This is a beautiful house, Yin. Oh, thanks. It stands, you replied with a stupid grin on your face. Anyway, come and meet my Pa. You led the way into the lounge room and grinned at Pa as you introduced your favourite carer. Pa, this is Betty Grump, you introduced. Hello, Betty, Pa greeted. Call me by my first name. This is a beautiful house, she said again to him. Withstands the huff and the puff from the big old bad wolf, he joked, cackling away to himself as she walked over and sat down, chuckling politely at his comment. So, Betty, how many days would you be able to work for us? You asked her with a hopeful, large smile on your face. Please say every day, please say every day. Well, I do care for a number of people, so I can do Wednesday, Thursday and Friday from 12 p.m. till 6 p.m. That's fine. I'd maybe only need you till 3 p.m, so it would only be for a 3-hour job then, you said to her. Oh, not a problem, honey. I'm happy for that, she replied with a smile. Do you like cabbages? Pa suddenly asked. Oh, sweetheart, I can't eat cabbages. They don't do well with my stomach, she replied sadly, reaching across and patting his hand. Pa's face fell, and you had to look away to hide your smirk. Ooh, that's strike one, Betty. I have cabbages outside, Pa said. Oh, do you? Betty asked. I'd love to see it. Are you still able to water it? I do my best, Pa replied, but it does get difficult. Well, I guess I can do that, she commented, thinking as she stood up. Watering shouldn't be too hard. Watering? Hard? Oh, no, Betty. I think we have a problem if you're thinking that you might just be able to handle watering. You stood as she stood. Let me show you around a bit, you said. You walked Mrs. Grump around the house and explained a little of your routine with Pa as you went, but most of the conversation was about her and her grandkids, which you didn't mind too much. She really seemed like a sweet lady. As you entered the lounge room again, Pa held up his empty cup of tea and gave you both a polite, crooked smile. Ladies, I hate to interrupt, but the tide's gone out in my drink. I'll get it, Pa, you said with a smile as you walked over and took it from his hand. Betty, Pa addressed the potential carer, would you mind making it for me? "Oh, yes, I'll do my best," she said, taking the cup from your outstretched hand and turning to the kitchen. "I like milking too," Pa called out after her. "Oh, of course," she replied, and you followed her out to the kitchen to show her where everything was. She fumbled around a bit, but she found everything and made him a cuppa and then took it back in. She handed it to him, to his left side, and he had to reach across his body with his right arm to get it. She didn't even notice her blunder, but you did. Well, I have to give it to Mrs. Happy. She really knew what to do straight away when Mrs. Grump really doesn't seem to be on the same level at all. After chatting a little more, you and Pa said goodbye to Mrs. Grump and she left to go home. "Well, Pa," you said as you walked back into the lounge room, "I'm kind of with you on the Mrs. Happy thing. She seems to have it all together." "Did you see how she knew which side to put my cuppa on? And she turned the handle towards me. She's the one." "Yeah, sounds like a marriage proposal," you chuckled. Another chapter done and dusted. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Chapter 54 coming then. I'll see you then.